Shabbat Shalom. This is Rabbi Simon Altaf, your host, with today's session on Yahushua, the Black Messiah. Before I begin on Yahushua, the Black Messiah, I just wanted to introduce you to certain topic materials which I think will be highly beneficial to you. For instance, this Bible, the Abrahamic Faith Nazarene Hebraic Study Scriptures. This is a 2-volume Bible. Now, in essence, I can speak a lot about the Bible, but what I'm basically going to say is this, that all the material I teach you, I do cover it in the Bible as well. If you don't have the Bibles, for instance, if you just decided to go with King James Version of the Bible, that's fine by me. But what I'm going to say is that you're going to have lots of questions in your head, and they're never going to be answered by just reading the King James Version or any other version of the Bible, because they simply don't address the questions that we often have. So this Bible will address the questions with answers, and it is fully commentated Bible. This is not just a one of those Bibles which is just there for quick reference. It actually will become your study guide, and this will be very useful, especially to identify who you are as a people, Hebrew Israelites, and who you belong to. That's very important. This is what is being revealed in the last days. Now, I want to show you the second book. The second book is Beit Yahushua. Now, this book, Beit Yahushua, son of Zadok, son of Daoud, this illustrates several important points. One of the crucial questions that we ask, that you should be asking too, is how can Yahushua, who many of you inherently call Jesus, how can he go into the Holy of Holies? Because only the Kohen HaGadol, the high priest, who was from the tribe of Levi, could go into that. Now you know that it is taught prevalently out there that he was from the tribe of Judah, Yehudah. So see, these are the kind of questions, and I trace here his genealogy, I trace here his ancestry, and I show who he really is, who his family members are, who were the disciples, where they came from, what relationships they have, because people often accuse us of just coming out with a New Testament or a New Covenant writings, and that, you know, who is Mark, who is Matthew, who is John. So, you know, these are the kind of questions that you need to have answers to. Who is Luke? Is he a Gentile? You know, does God allow Gentiles to write revelations given to Israel? These questions must be answered, and these questions have been answered here with accurate proofs to show you hidden truths in Scripture. One of the other titles is this. Our topic today is about this, the Black Yahushua. I have spoken about this book a little bit before, but if you get this, it will show you exactly why Yahushua isn't the Caucasian person that you see in movies, in churches that you hear about, and also the pictures that you see. We will come to that shortly. And one of the titles is this, World War III, Unmasking the End Times Beast. The follow-up to this one is World War III, Salvation of the Jews, Yahudim. Now all these titles, and this is a prophecy book, this will detail to you who the end time beast is, who will be the Antichrist, and what events we will go through in the future. There is another one that's coming up, it is not yet ready, called World War III, which is part 4 of this series, which is about the final Exodus, and it answers very important questions such as, who is Israel? For instance, has Israel been recreated in 1948? And other questions such as, have we restored the ancient Hebrew language? Many good questions that really need to be addressed properly, which people don't really understand, and usually many preachers out there just gloss over them incorrectly, I must say. So we are going to start, our topic today is going to be the Messiah. Now, one of the greatest deceptions that has happened in our world in the past 2,000 years is this, that the Messiah, who was an Israelite, a Hebrew Israelite, has been portrayed throughout the years. It wasn't initially like this. He has been portrayed as a white Caucasian man with blonde hair, possibly with blue eyes, and possibly with long hair. Now, I want to point out that picture, we have nothing against the white Caucasian people, But that picture is completely false. Why is that picture false? Because one of the questions that I often get asked is, who are the white people? Where did they come from? If Yahushua was a black man, if he came out of the African region, for instance, Israel is an African region, not Middle Eastern. That is a false preposition to call it Middle East, because that preposition, that wording started this, in late 19th to 20th century. So therefore we can't apply that. Israel is actually Africa, North Africa. So we have to ask the question, who are the Caucasians? And I must actually do a proper series on that. But for now, it is enough to say, because I know there's people out there teaching they're the devil, they're from Esau, they're this, that, and the other. But I want to say one thing, that consider the Caucasian race as your cousins, as the sons of Uncle Japheth. Okay? So if you consider them as your cousins, as the sons of Uncle Japheth, if we are the sons of Shem, then we have no problem. And I will illustrate exactly who the Caucasian race are, where did they come from, because everybody's start was Africa. Okay? So once we understand that, then we remove all the prejudices. What happened subsequently to Israel throughout the number of years that we've arrived at this point, we must understand that that was prophesied to happen because of the disobedience of our forefathers. When they disobeyed Torah, then the curses overtook them. The curses were not joke, they were serious. And even to this day, people who do not obey the Torah are still going through those curses, whereby they don't know their identity, whereby they have taken on false religions and many other things. So let us quickly and swiftly come back to the topic at hand, and that is Yahushua, the Black Messiah. How can he be black? Some of you are going to be, gosh, how can he be black? This man must be mad. See, these are the kind of comments that I often hear from people. You need to consider this. I'm going to point out historians, secular historians, who maybe do not believe that there is a creator out there, an intelligent designer, and they are saying today that they have enough evidence, genetic evidence, to prove that Africa has the widest mix of human species, and that everybody's start goes to Africa. Even the Chinese go back to Africa, okay? Even their common ancestor is an African. So then we have to ask the question, why did he become white if he wasn't white? These are questions that need detailed answers and maybe longer discussions, which we may not have time here for. But I want to show you, and I want to show from the scriptures that we have, why certain things happen and what it actually means for them to happen that way. One of the questions that I want you to consider before we move on, actually, I need to show you something before you consider my question, is we know from historical evidence that Africa or Egypt historically was all black. Okay? Everybody that lived in Egypt at a starting point 6,000 years ago or even 7,000 years ago were black. Okay? If they were all black, how did they suddenly become white? They are not white. Okay? So we have to ask the question, then Yahushua is actually a person who ended up eventually going into Egypt. But let's just look at something else. I'll come back to this. I want to show you a picture of a man. This is a picture of a man, and if my camera person, my camera woman can zoom in, I will show you this picture is of a person called Caesar Borgia. I have spoken about this man before, but I have used pseudonames. I have used shorthand is for me to keep certain things basically hidden, so that I don't open them immediately. And I've said that this was the son of Pope, I said Nick, but actually it's not Pope Nick, that is my underhand. He is the son of Pope Alexander. Okay, this man was his illegitimate son. He was born to a wife that wasn't even meant to be his wife. Remember, the popes were not meant to marry, yet he had married and he had produced this offspring. Now, why is this person important? Well, there are reasons for that. I'll come to in a second. But what you need to do is you need to go on the internet, perhaps on Google, and type House of Borgia, B-O-R-G-I-A. That will bring you this family's history. The idolatrous history that this family has, you can go and see for yourself. Now, why is this man important to us? Why am I showing you this man's picture? The reason why I'm showing you this man's picture is because of this. Let me do the magic trick and flip the picture around while no one's looking. And here we have it. This is why. See, this picture here, this one here, is meant to be a picture of the Messiah, a Caucasian Yahushua. Okay? This picture actually belongs to this guy Borgia, Caesar. So the idolatrous man took on the image, or the so-called Messiah took on the image of the idolatrous man. You know what we call these kind of people in Hebrew, mamzer. Now, moving on from there, so this man who is now portrayed today in all the churches, whether Catholic, whatever you want to call yourself, denomination, I don't really care, they are described, this person, as Yahushua of Nazareth. It is far, far away from the truth. This man is not Yahushua of Nazareth. This man is Borgia. That is the picture who they used. So if they used his picture, when did this change occur? Well, this change occurred during 15th and 16th century. And during that time period, what I want to point out is that Yahushua as a baby was always a black baby. Miriam, his mother, was always portrayed as a black baby. Now, you might say that actually, how can that be? How can he be a black baby if he suddenly become a white man? Either he is at a transplant like Michael Jackson, who's deceased now, who started to become white, which we call albinism, or that something was switched around during that time. So the evidence can be found in the church in Ethiopia. It can be found in the churches in the East. Even in Europe, they have the so-called Black Madonna and the baby. You can see that they are clearly not white. I even showed you in one of my series a picture of Pope John Paul worshipping the black Miriam and the baby. Okay? So that is clear. Now the question is this. That is who Borgia is. We don't want to have this picture or anything to do with it. Yahushua, on the other hand, was a black Messiah of Negroid features. He had dreadlocks. Okay? He had dreadlock type of hair, braided hair. Now look at this hair. Does it look like dreadlocks? Does it look like it's got dreadlocks? Caucasian people cannot have dreadlocks. Okay? Only black people do. Only black people have dreadlocks, African nation. So he had dreadlock types of hair, woolly type of hair. Now, if you remember, I'm going to put this down now. If you remember that one of the incidences that happened in the book of Matthew, which is mentioned in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13, one of the incidents that happened was that Yahushua as a baby was visited by 12 magi. Did I just say something wrong? Aren't you told it's only 3 magi? No, it is 12 magi. Those 12 magi were Rabbi, or what we say as rabbis, teachers. They were people who were watching the skies for a special event that was going to occur in Israel, and they then came following that star. They were actually the student of the master, their master, who was Daniel the prophet. They came from Babylon. Okay? These were 12 men. They were representative of the 12 tribes of Israel. They came to worship and to honor this little baby who was the Messiah. Now, when they came, they obviously met Herod. Herod was an evil man. Now, Herod wanted to kill the baby Yahushua when he heard that this baby is a special baby. So he told them to go and visit the baby, then come back and tell him. But when these folks came and visited the baby, they did not go back because they were warned not to go back. And they left by another route. Now, what's important is this, is that at that point in time, our Father in heaven warned Miriam and her husband through a dream, warned them to leave to Egypt. My question to you is this: if Egypt is Caucasian, or if Egypt was black anciently, as I said, let's assume my original thesis is Egypt was always black. Now, if Egypt was always black, at that point in time, how would a white baby look in Egypt? Like a sore thumb. You know, if somebody went from the Roman army, they could spot him a mile away, and he would be the talk of the town, that we've got a white baby amongst us. But no, he wasn't. He was black. This is why both Miriam, his mother, and his father, who were African descent people, they became mixed amongst the Egyptians. And then our father says that he called his son out of Egypt. Excuse me, did I really hear that again? He called his son out of Egypt. Now, if your historians are not good enough to tell you that Egypt had black people, then I'm afraid something is very wrong. If Egypt had black people, then surely this man also came out of that black Egypt. Now, one of the things that is important evidence that Egypt was indeed black, and another analogy and a typology is of Joseph, Yusuf, the son of Jacob. You remember that in Christianity they love to do these types, that he's a type of Joseph. Well, if he's a type of Joseph, if Joseph was black and he is white, how can he be a type? He'll be an anti-type, okay? Because he won't be in the same family. Joseph was a black man. Yusuf was a black man, yes. And then when Yusuf went into Egypt, remember, Yusuf also went into Egypt, and he also disappeared amongst the people. His brothers who went looking for him and also went to purchase grain at that time, when there's a famine, they went and they looked at his brother at one point. They didn't recognize him. Well, if he was a white man and all these 12 tribes were white, surely, you know, amongst the black Egyptians, it's easy to locate a white man or ask somebody, have you seen this person who's got white skin? I want to find him. But no, that never happened. If we read the book of Genesis, chapter 42, verse 8, we find in there, it says, so Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Why would that be? Could that be because he was black and they were also black, and they did not recognize him because at that point in time he looked exactly like an Egyptian, black, wearing the Egyptian garb, the clothing. Okay? So that is actually proof that if Egypt and Joseph, who is supposed to be the type of Messiah, he actually reflects the real Messiah, and the real Messiah is also the black Yahushua that I specified. One of the NT scholars in England, if I may say so, in one of the BBC programs, actually said it very clearly. He said, this is his words, Jesus is black. Not my words. My words is Yahushua is black. I don't use the J word too much. However, so scholars do know some of this material, do understand it, but they don't want to tell people widely about it because you know, they don't want to disturb the status quo. Where people are happy, they leave them to be happy. However, we are not here to disturb the status quo. We are here at a time and a juncture where now a restoration will occur of the people that were called Hebrew Israelites at one time. And in order to know that, we were commanded that when we are in exile, that when we turn back to Torah, and to the ways that the Most High has established for us, then He will start to restore us. The restoration will first come in our mind and our bodies. If many of you were taken as slaves from Africa into Europe, into cross-Atlantic slave trade, into America, Australia, Brazil, and other places of the world, you've got to understand why. That was a curse that was prophesied in the Torah. No such event has ever occurred in history as bad as that event. The Holocaust, the German Holocaust, pales to insignificance that happened with the Jews in Germany. It completely pales to insignificance because 100 million people were displaced from Africa. 100 million people. Historians only record 26 million, but there's actually 100 million people. Several million people were brought over, many people lost their homes, many died along the way, and their bodies were littered all over the beaches, the forests, you name it, they were there. So you got to know that if you're a Michael in America, if you're a George in England, if you are a Luke's somewhere, you are not a descendant of the American races or the British races. you are a descendant of the Hebrew Israelite races, you need to look back. You need to turn away, repent, and go back to Torah, at which point the Most High will then reveal who you are, the truth, and restore you back to His people. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'm your host, Rabbi Simon Altaf. Another time, another place, as the Most High wills. Shalom, shalom.